Hi everyone, it's Will. I've got my Pac-Man pullover today that was a gift a few years back from Paulo Bernardo, the general manager at Shots Out. And so it's perfect for a day like today, not cold, but a little overcast. I should start by saying this is the 1907 diary series. We are still in Crimea. It's the 16th September, and it's a Sunday, as it is here in 2024 on 22nd September. So we have a sort of medium, largish diary entry today, but it would be pretty hard to divide it. So let's try to make it all the way through. Yesterday, Dmitry was so worried. He was writing at 7:35, and it was about time to go for dinner at Aunt Minnie and Uncle George's in Harax, and he was worried that Georgi Mihailovich was going to be snappish. He'd just gotten home from a horseback ride. Laming had, that is, and seemed to be in a foul mood. But apparently all was well. He was maybe just grumbling when he came in because the horse had done badly, but he wasn't in a bad mood overall. All right, so let's dive into the 16th. We didn't go to church today because there was somebody's funeral. We planned to go to Oreanda and didn't end up doing that either. We lunched at home, and at 3 o'clock, Aunt Minnie and Uncle George came to get us, and we went to Harax with them. We stayed until 6 o'clock. It was so nice there at Harax, remarkably so. She's terribly sweet to us, Aunt Minnie, so kind and good to us. She seems to love us a lot. At Harax, we sat on a huge rock on the beach. We talked, laughed, and then went up to the house for tea. The children joined us for tea. I've already said it, and I'll say it again. They're splendid children, so polite and not shy with us. Aunt Minnie took us home. Yesterday evening went very well. GM was in a good mood, and it was remarkably cozy. Fortunately, there weren't many people at dinner. After dinner, Dr. Zhigalov sang for us. He has an amazing voice. He sang such beautiful things that it was just splendid. Today I'm a little tired because we walked a lot. GM was in a good mood from the time he got up, praise God, because that made things very pleasant. We went swimming today at 8 o'clock, and I dunked them, and they dunked me thoroughly. 10:15. Okay, so he's breaking Aunt Ella's rule here. He's not in bed quite yet, and it's 10:15. But, as you can see, our friend is in an excellent mood himself, and apparently that is quite closely tied to the fact that Laming is in a good mood. And so how Dimitri's days go seems to hinge on exactly that question of whether GM is in a good mood or not. Okay, so they didn't go to church. There was a funeral scheduled. They meant to go to Oreanda. So let me just look here quickly. I had a Facebook friend who looked up Oreanda and was able to find that there had been a fire there quite a few years before. Actually, 10 years before Dmitri was even born, in 1881, there was a fire, and the palace that was there was burned down, and it left ruins. And it had belonged to Grand Duke Constantine, so probably Dimitri's great-grandfather, Grand Duke Constantine Nikolaevich, and he allowed part of the fence on one side to be removed after the fire so that people who wanted to go wayfaring, as the little article puts it, could do so. And let's see, adjoining Oreanda is Levadia, now the property of the Empress, but formerly belonging to Count Potocki. So, yeah, there we go. Very helpful. Thank you for that, Laura. But they didn't end up going to Oreanda. You remember how the day before Dimitri had been waxing poetic about the ruins, the melancholy ruins there, and that it was a shame that they had simply been left to fall apart even further. But you know, it brought out the poetic in him, so I don't know that it was really a shame. I wonder if there's anything left of all of that now. Okay, I didn't realize also that it had been so close to Levadia, where the current, at that time, current imperial palace was, belonging to Nicholas and Alexandra. Okay, so the lunch was planned with Aunt Minnie and Uncle George, Georgy Mikhailovich, and Dmitri overall doesn't say a lot about him. He'll say a little more in the diary entries that are to come, and I had the great privilege of being able to translate and read Grand Duke George's letters that he wrote beginning in 1914 to his daughter, who was Nina, the wonderful Nina whom Dmitri adored, who was living in England at that time. And he mentioned Dmitri once or twice, but only in passing, so the two of them weren't close. And Aunt Minnie and the two daughters, not just Nina, were all in England at that time. But when Dmitri got to England at the very end of 1918, he pretty quickly went to see Aunt Minnie, and they sort of resumed a close relationship, and they spent a lot of time together, and he also spent time with the two girls who were teenagers, and so that was sort of his family before Maria arrived in England herself. In London, Aunt Minnie and the two girls were Dimitri's family in London. And he was never romantically interested in either Nina or Ksenia, but when they were children, he just thought they were the cutest and sweetest things, as he mentions here. He had a really strong aversion, as you know, to ill-behaved children, and Nina and her little sister Ksenia seemed to him to really be model children. Okay, so Aunt Minnie and Uncle George came to pick them up, took them back to Herax, and then we have this line about, first, how sweet and good Aunt Minnie is to both Dimitri and Maria, and then she seems to love us a lot. Sometimes those lines of his are almost, they're very poignant. They're almost a little heartbreaking because he doesn't seem to have felt loved overall, and he was always so grateful when he sensed that somebody did love him. All right, and you know, it's really a shame that the people who would have loved him and treasured him as a child were not the ones who were raising him. Instead, he was away in Moscow with Uncle Sergei and Aunt Ella, who had issues, let's put it that way, and it wasn't the ideal household for children. Okay, so at Herax, they go down, they sit on a huge rock on the beach, and they talk and laugh, and it's a wonderful time just sitting there on that rock talking and laughing. So yeah, he's matured quite a bit in that sense, and you can see what a good mood all of this has put him in, and how it's the perfect antidote to his depression, having Laming in a good mood and also being able to spend time in such a cozy family circle. All right, there's the reference to the two little girls. And this evening before, that he had been dreading that everything was going to go wrong because of GM. The dinner the evening before at Harak's turned out to be remarkably cozy. GM was in a good mood. I don't know if we can infer from this or not that GM was invited to the dinner. If so, that was probably why he was in a good mood. But anyway, everything there was remarkably cozy. Fortunately, there weren't many people, so most Grand Ducal dinners, even when it was just an informal family circle kind of thing, had other people, other non-family members at dinner, members, maybe the girls' governess, maybe GM had a little suite, or not GM, but Uncle George had a little suite that joined them. And there's this fellow called Dr. Zhigalov, whom I haven't been able to find. Sounds very close to Dr. Zhivago, doesn't it? When I looked up the surname, since we don't have his Christian name and patronymic, I found that there is a revered actor who in Russia now. He may be deceased or not. I think not. But anyway, that was the only Zhigalov of note that I could find. So since this fellow is Dr. Zhigalov, I don't know that he was necessarily a singer per se. Probably not. But apparently, as Dmitri puts it, he has an amazing voice, and he was willing to entertain them. And this was another reason why Dmitri was in a good mood and is in a good mood, is because he loves music. And he loves vocal music, he loves instrumental music, and this man sang for them, and his choice of songs was apparently things that Dmitri liked so much, and it was just splendid. So that turned out to be, despite all of his anxiety before the dinner, it turned out to be really an ideal evening. And then this day, Sunday, was also ideal at Harak's on the beach and laughing and talking. And it is breaking Aunt Ella's rule, because Aunt Ella said only Saturdays were Dmitri and Maria allowed to go, not just to dinner, but even to lunches. And today in this diary entry is a Sunday, and they've gone off to lunch at Harak's. But GM, once again, was in a good mood. Dmitri says he was in a good mood from the time he got up in the morning. Praise God, because that makes things very pleasant. So that doesn't require any commentary after all that has already been said. And then, just as a passing thought, Dmitri closes the diary entry talking about how they went swimming as usual in the morning, and I dunked them and they dunked me. And I can tell you, I personally would not have cared for that game, but Dmitri seems to have loved it, where they try to drag each other down to the bottom of the pool. All right, so tomorrow we have another musical interlude that's quite interesting and that pleases Dmitri very much. And yeah, more interesting relatives are starting to come into things more and more. Maria is still having a bit of a hard time. But anyway, come back for that, and I'll see you next time.